Hello everyone, welcome to the Geoecologist. I am Dr. Krishnanand and you have been watching my series on oceanography. So in this session on oceanography, we are going to learn about marine resources. So various kinds of resources, their classification, definition, various examples and distribution all around the world we are going to learn in this session. But before we go ahead, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and do share the videos with others as well. So, after we have learnt about the corals, its various theories and coral reef, atolls and everything else related to corals in the last session, now let's understand this topic, that is marine resources. So when we say this word resources, what does it signify? It basically is coming from the Latin word resurgo, and that basically means what? To rise again. Something that is coming back again. That's why the word here is resources. So it is coming up anew, that is spring up anew. So that is the basic meaning of something that is resource. Now if you look at this particular photograph or image on your screen, what you observe, it is talking about sustainable development goal, and goal number 14 talks about life below water, which is concerned with this particular aspect that we are dealing here, that is the marine resources. So what you observe here, various facts. For example, 13.36% of the population live in coastal districts. Then ranked 12th among top 20 countries responsible for marine pollution. That's about India. Remember, India is ranked 12th among top 20 countries. Then if you talk about the economy, so coastal and marine resources contribute, that is 3 to 6 trillion to the global economy in 1 year. That is important to remember. Then second largest producer of fish. Remember, that is one important aspect in terms of India if you observe. Then if you come here, what you observe, the generation of plastic every day. Remember, how much do we generate? 40%. Remember, 40% of the plastic waste is the major contributory to the ocean pollution. Apart from that, in India, sea level rise, that is 1.33 millimeter per year on coast, that has been calculated. So this is in terms of India, and this is what you see as a global scenario, right? So that is important, and that's why it is one of the important aspects of sustainable development goals to actually conserve marine resources and use it for our development in a judicious manner, where we can plan a sustainability of these resources. Now let's elaborate further more. So when we talk about the concept of resources, one person cannot be ignored, and he is Erich Walter Zimmermann. And Zimmermann, who was a famous resource economist teaching at University of North Carolina and later at University of Texas, called his real world theory, that is functional theory of mineral resources. Now this is where it becomes one of the most important aspects across social sciences and sciences in terms of resources. So functional theory of mineral resources is what he actually described as world theory, and his followers have coined a term which is called resource ship. So what is this resource ship? It is describing this functional theory. So Zimmermann basically rejected the assumption of fixity. What is this fixity all about? That there is a fixity in resources. It means resources are not known fixed things. They are what humans employ to service wants at a given time. It means resources are not fixed. They are something which is dependent upon human employment. So he basically projected human usage of a particular thing, then only that will become resource. So to Zimmermann, remember the year 1933, only human appraisal can turn a neutral stuff into resources that is important. So what you observe here is that appraisal is an assessment of a particular stuff, a particular object, and then after that only we can consider it as a resource or a neutral stuff. That was his concept, and that is what we say as resource ship, right? So what are resources today may not be tomorrow. That's one of the most important point to remember in resource ship, in functional theory of mineral resources, that today, which is resource, cannot be resource tomorrow. That's possible. That can convert into a neutral stuff and vice versa. So remember, according to Zimmermann, his famous statement says what? Resources are not, they become. It means there is nothing called resource in terms of fixity. There is nothing called fixed resources. It keeps changing. It means it changes according to their utility, right? And that's why we say they become. It means it is completely dependent upon human beings who employ these resources in terms of their services, right? At a given point of time. This is this concept that changed the concept of natural resource management across the world. And remember, according to the definition of Zimmerman, the word resource does not refer to a thing, but rather to a function. That's why it is the functional theory of mineral resources, right? So remember, it's basically a function of particular object that makes it a resource or neutral stuff, right? One which is not resource for you is neutral stuff for you. For example, even if you know that there is lots of coal beneath the earth which is on your property, but if you don't have utility for it, if you don't have resources to take it out, it is as good as a neutral stuff for you, right? Unless you can utilize it, till that extent, it is just a neutral stuff. It will be resource once you dig out that coal and use it for some industrial purpose or domestic purpose. Till that point, it is not a resource. That is the whole concept that is basically functional theory of mineral resources. So when we are talking about the marine resources, there also this theory is applied. That's why we needed to learn about this particular theory of resources. Now let's understand in details about the marine resources. So going ahead in marine resources, remember, this is the title of a particular report. What you see here, the oceans, seas, marine resources and human beings' well-being nexus. It means there is an interconnectivity between all these important aspects. If you observe this diagram carefully, what you see, on one hand, there is marine resources, which has several components, which is where ecosystem integrity is linked, right? So what is there in ocean seas? Provision of support services, contribution of biological diversity, hosting marine reservoirs of biodiversity and several others. And that is how the entire atmospheric and climatic regulation is also linked to these marine resources, right? To the ocean resources. And on right side, if you observe, you have human society, which has sustainable livelihoods, poverty eradication, health, protection from natural disasters, and food security. All these things are related to human well-being. But remember, this left-hand side and right-hand side are interlinked in a particular system that we can see. How? Through these important points, that is provisioning services, for example, food, water, oxygen, raw materials, regulating services like climate regulation, emission absorption, sun radiation absorption, shoreline protection. Then what we have is cultural services, for example, recreational services, aesthetic benefits. Then what we have is potential access and sharing of benefits from utilization of genetic resources, right? Then livelihoods and job creation. So all these factors that you read here, you can pause the video as well and you can read it for yourself, all these points, right? This is where there is a linkage between human societies and ocean and seas, what we call as a well-being nexus, right? But there are certain important threats as well. And what you observe here in this orange and red color is the threats to this entire integrated system. What are the threats? Climate change, marine pollution, unsustainable extraction of resources, and physical alteration and destruction. So this is how the entire resource relationship, remember, the human beings and resource, or the ocean resource or the marine resource relationship is actually given in this particular important diagram. So you can utilize this diagram to study conceptually as well. And when you're writing some particular answer, you can draw them. You can remember these points like provisioning services, regulating services, cultural services, potential access, and livelihoods and job creation, how this entire integrated system works together. That's important because remember, resources are something that is related or defined in terms of human beings only, right? Human beings' utility, human beings' function. That's where the functional theory is there, right? So that's why this particular integrated system is important. Then we also have certain points that are importantly listed here. So if you observe and you can read these points, these are basically what? These are illustrative examples where you find that there is importance of ocean, seas, and marine resources for human well-being listed. So some of the points, if I can read out, like for example, at least 90% of the volume of global trade is based on sea. That's one of the important aspects. If you talk in terms of global economy, so global oceans based economy is estimated to be about USD 3 to 6 trillion per year, as we know, right? That's one of the most important aspects. Then apart from that, what you observe is mangroves, coral reefs, as we have learned in the last lecture as well, shoreline protection. This is all linked to what you say is marine resources, and marine phytoplankton produces 50% of oxygen on Earth. So remember, it's not just resources in terms of artifacts, not in terms of just mineral and energy resources, but also it is important for us to get this 50% oxygen. That's why it is one of the most vital resources, right? And if you observe in this particular image, the marine ecosystem services. Now here is something which is most important in terms of ecosystem services related to marine ecosystem. So what you have here is, for example, all these services that we draw: aquaculture, fishing, tourism, subsistence harvest, shoreline protection, cultural identity. All these things, all these provisioning services, which are called ecosystem services, are linked to the marine environment and based on marine resources. That's why to sustain these marine ecosystem services, the health of the oceans is one of the most important aspect, right? And that's why it is listed under Sustainable Development Goals number 14. Now let's come to the last part, or the most important part of the session, that is the classification of these resources. Now remember, because these resources in terms of their function, in terms of their utility, vary a lot, and there is a diversity in these resources. So we needed to classify it on different basis, right? So if you observe this flow diagram on your right side, what you see, marine resources have three basic classification: 1, 2 and 3. So first is biological, second is mineral resources, third is energy resources, and they have been further subdivided and they have different examples. So now let's elaborate one by one. So the first one is marine biological resources, right? The number 1 point. So it can be generally divided into two parts, that is A, food resources, and B, that is non-food resources. For example, if you can observe, animal resources, plant resources like fish, crab, prawn, zooplankton, and then phytoplankton, seagrasses, these are all food resources. While corals, which we have already learned in detail, these are non-food resources or economic resources, right? Then alternatively, if you see, the first important point, that is biological resources, can also be reclassified into three categories. Now category 1 is plankton communities, where you have zooplankton and phytoplankton, that is plant and animal species. Then comes the next one, that is B, which is nekton communities. And what is this nekton? Remember, the Greek word nekton basically means to swim, right? So those animals, aquatic organisms that can swim, that is classified in nekton communities, right? For example, the pelagic fishes, that is away from the shore, right? And then you have demersal fishes, which is near the ground, or the deep sea fishes, right? That's one of the most important aspects. So nekton communities basically is comprising of what? All the fishes or the swimming aquatic organisms, right? That's the basic classification. So plant community, nekton community, and the third one is the benthos community, right? So remember, the benthos, which is deep inside the ocean, along the slope, right? The continental slope that we observe. So we have three categories here. Epibenthic. Epi is the upper portion, right? That's why it is epi. For example, epidermis, right? On the upper skin surface. So it's epibenthic, means it is on the upper portion of the slope. Then you have benthic, that is on the middle portion, where you have different organisms. And then you have something called inflora and infauna. So if you observe, the epiflora is part of epibenthic. So epiflora and epifauna, that is the important aspect here in terms of epibenthic community. And when in flora and in fauna we say, so it is talking about those important flora and fauna which thrive or which live on the detritus or the dead decay or remains of the animals and plants that is at the bottom layer of the ocean, right? So that is called in flora or in fauna. So remember, when it is epi, the word is upper, right? The epi part. So epiflora and epifauna is upper part of the ocean. But when you go to the bottom of the ocean, you have in flora and in fauna, and because in the bottom there is no light, remember, so most of the detritus, the dead remains of plants and animals are settled there, on which certain plants and animals also grow. So that is called in flora and in fauna. That is the classification. So this is about the first point, that is biological resources or marine biological resources and their categorization. Now coming to the second point, that is your marine mineral resources, that is here, right? Mineral resources. So remember, mineral resources have been classified differently on the basis of location, right? So that is on the basis of location. You have three categories. So one is shelf deposit. Remember the shelf part. Then you have slope and the sea bottom, right? So three part, 1, 2 and 3, right? On the basis of their location. So continental shelf deposits are the first minerals. Then you have slope deposits. Then you have deep sea deposits, right? And apart from that, the second is on the basis of their nature. So what is their nature? One is metallic. Remember the metallic nodules. Then you have fuel minerals, which is called petroleum and natural gas. Remember the offshore drilling areas we have in different parts of the world and India. Then construction material, for example, gravel, sand, silt, all these are the construction deposits. So these are also resources, right? So we have two classification of resources on marine mineral resources. One is locational, one is natural, right? On the basis of nature and location. So remember these examples. Then come to the third one, that is energy resources. And energy resources have two categories. One is called conventional energy, right? What is that? It is used in general industrial purpose, that is petroleum and natural gas, and which is called non-conventional source. That is, example is basically all those renewable natural sources like tidal energy, wave energy, biomass energy. These are non-conventional sources. So this is the energy resource classification. And also there is a fourth category which is not here in this diagram or in this flow diagram, but it is there as freshwater resources. Now you will be confused that we are talking about marine resources. So why is this freshwater resources here? Remember, it is talking about manufactured water. What is this? Transformation of saline water through the process of desalinization into the fresh water. That's why we say freshwater resources from the sea. So basically what we do here is that we convert the saline water into the potable water or drinkable and usable water for domestic purpose and industrial purpose. That is what we do through the desalinization process and use of technology. So that is the fourth category of resources. So remember what we have learned is biological resources, mineral resources and energy resources as three major categories, and fourth has freshwater resources. So now when we have learnt in details about marine resources, in the sessions to come we'll be talking more on the law of the sea. So stay tuned, stay safe, all the best wishes.